Hey guys, it's Sire Goku. It's been a while, and I'm back. I'm doing a playthrough of NES Castlevania. I'm just gonna come right out and say that I'm doing this post-commentary. I wanted to try doing it live, but the game is so short that trying to split it up into parts just wasn't working out, so I just recorded it all in one sitting. Why not? It's been a while since I played a Castlevania game. For those of you that don't remember my old channel, I have played Castlevania and posted videos of it on YouTube before, but that was a long time ago. That was Castlevania 4. I'll probably record that again someday. But this is Castlevania 1, and there's not much I can say about it that hasn't already been said. This game is a classic. I am playing this off of the Castlevania collection on the Switch, because it's the easiest way for me to record it. But yeah, Castlevania 1. You are Simon Belmont, you can run left and right, you have a whip, you can jump, and when you have sub-weapons like the Holy Water or the clock there, or the stopwatch there, you can press up and attack to use the sub-weapon. Sub-weapons cost hearts. Each individual sub-weapon costs a different amount of hearts, so just keep that in mind. The difference with this game, as opposed to pretty much every other Castlevania, well, I wouldn't say different, but since it's the NES, it's very limited on what you can do. People that probably remember Castlevania more probably think of Super Castlevania 4 when they think of the classic Castlevanias, or possibly Castlevania Bloodlines, or Rondo of Blood. Super Castlevania 4 is still the only game in the series where you can whip in multiple directions. I don't know why that's the only game. You'd think after it worked out so well that every game afterwards you would be able to do that, but that's Castlevania 4. With Castlevania on the NES, its difficulty is pretty much legendary. You have a very slow walk cycle, very stiff jump, and massive knockback. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is the game that made knockback the infamousy that it is. Whenever people think of knockback, this is one of the first series of video games that they think of when it's brought up. You get hit and you jump back about 2 or 3 entire spaces backwards, which, if you're standing behind a pit, that's awful. But anyway, so we get here our first boss. The Roman numeral 2 allows you to throw 2 sub-weapons at a time instead of 1, and then there's also the Roman numeral 3, which lets you throw 3 at once, instead of having to wait for the item to leave the screen. The first boss there was the giant bat. Pretty self-explanatory. He floats around in the sky, and get the axe, and you can hit him multiple times while he's floating above you. It's actually a lot easier than using anything else. The downside is that if you collect a different sub-weapon after getting the multiplier item, you will lose said multiplier, so you have to recollect it again later. Something that isn't brought back in any of the other Castlevanias, well, except for, I guess, Castlevania 2, is there are hidden walls that have nothing, but if you walk into them, they will reveal a hidden item which gives you a lot of extra points. Normally points wouldn't matter, but for this game, I believe it's every 5,000 points, every 50, or what is it, 5? Yeah, every 50,000 points you get an extra life, so you're going to want to get points as much as possible, because this game is hard. This game is probably what gives Castlevania its reputation of being so difficult, because, well, while I won't say it is the hardest Castlevania game, it is what basically starts what people think of in terms of difficulty when Castlevania is brought up. I still think, and a lot of people will probably agree, that Castlevania 3 is the hardest of the NES trilogy in terms of the original gameplay style. So The thing about this game is, while I have played it a lot, I never physically owned the cartridge as a kid. I played it a lot at my friend's house. The first Castlevania game I ever owned was Super Castlevania 4, actually, which I will probably record that game again at some point, because I actually really do enjoy that game. But because this is not like Super Castlevania 4, the sub-weapons are actually a lot more useful and actually more beneficial to get than they normally would in most other classic Castlevanias. Unless you probably consider Rondo of Blood, but I don't know, something about Rondo of Blood, like, you don't necessarily need the sub-weapons to beat that game sometimes, especially if you're playing as Maria, but I'm getting off track here. So right here I have the stopwatch, which normally is probably normally one of the worst sub-weapons, but for this game it's actually pretty broken. In fact, the two most overpowered usually the cross boomerang would be what people would consider the best sub-weapon in the franchise, in the game. But for this, I personally think the stopwatch and the holy water, definitely the holy water, is the most broken sub-weapon in the game. But the stopwatch actually is kind of useful in this game, not gonna lie. There is something unique too. Actually, no, it's not unique. I think that's something that's brought back in every game. If you break candles, candles will have items. Hearts are your ammunition. Money bags just give you points. And then every once in a while you'll find an item, a sub-weapon in them. But if you break the candle with your sub-weapon, you have a higher chance of them dropping the Roman numeral multiplier that you see that I have there. The 2 lets you throw 2 at a time, and the red one, 3, lets you throw 3 at a time. And each sub-weapon costs different amounts of hearts to use. So either spare them as much as you can, or go nuts on them, who cares? We got the Medusa heads here. They're just as annoying as they are in every Castlevania. And speak of the devil, we are facing Medusa. And here you can see just how broken the holy water is. It stuns bosses, and then you can just keep throwing it, and then, yeah, it's similar to using the pause glitch in Mega Man 1, where you just freeze enemies in place. And if you have enough hearts, you can just instantly kill a boss in about 5 or 10 seconds. It is the most reliable way of defeating pretty much every boss in this game. So my recommendation is keep the holy water as long as you possibly can, which is not an easy thing to do in this game, to be completely honest with you. And actually, right here is where I honestly think the game starts to get a little bit hard, specifically because of these jerks, these hunchbacks. Their jumping arc is really, really frustrating to deal with. You can dodge them, it does go a set distance, so you can judge where they're going, and if you time your shots with the holy water right, they can jump right on top of them. But they just move so sporadically that sometimes it's difficult to tell where they're going to go. Same with these crows. The crows are actually honestly worse, because what they're going to do is they're going to stop in place for a few seconds and then kind of just dash at you, depending on where you're standing. At least that's what I thought they did. But no, it seemed to me more like what happens with the crows is they stop and then they just pick a direction and then just dart in that direction. So if you happen to be jumping where they're going, yeah, they're gonna hit you, and they're probably, honestly, the most annoying enemies in this game. The music for this game is so great. Also, I always figured it's weird that after you defeat Medusa in these games, there's still Medusa heads. Because the lore is that Medusa uses strands of her hair to make those things, but if she's dead, she can't use her hair to make more of them, so why are they still around? Okay, and the Bone Dragons. The Bone Dragons are actually, normally would be one of the easier enemies, but in the first game, they're actually kind of tough. Oh, and that's where the crows can be kind of annoying, because if they hover just out of range, then, yeah, you can't hit them, and that's annoying. Now, the reason why the bone towers are annoying is because they have a lot of health, and honestly, they don't take extra damage from anything outside of like outside of the double chain whip. And it's not even that much damage. They take like 8 to 10 hits, and it's kind of insane. Usually, right here would be where where the floor tiles would start breaking apart if you're standing on them for too long, but thankfully they didn't introduce that until Castlevania 3, so you don't have to worry about that. Although you do have to kind of worry about there just being a lot of enemies on screen. And because of the knockback, open pits are way more difficult to deal with than usual. Because you can't control where you go if you take damage. You can't really control yourself at all in any Castlevania that you take damage in, but this one's a little more difficult because it's similar to Mega Man 1, where once you commit to a jump, you're going in that direction and then you just fall down and you have you just drop like a freaking rock. Anyway, and then second boss is two mummies. It's third boss, sorry, there's two mummies. So the first half of the health bar is for one of them, the second half is for the other one. Again, using the holy water to stun them in place makes them super easy. If you don't have the holy water, you can get a meat strip which heals, I believe, 7 or 8 units of health in the block of the stairs to the left, and you just keep swinging at them. You can destroy the bandages that they summon at you, but they're super easy. This is where the game starts to get hard. Every time I've played this game, this is where the game starts getting really irritating. This level in particular kills me almost every time because of these moving platforms, and then you have the mermen that are hopping at you, and then the bats. The freaking bats are the worst because they always seem to be in the worst possible space where you can't really do anything. You can't jump, otherwise the platform underneath you is going to move and you're going to fall into a pit. If you take damage, you're going to get knocked back, and if the platform is moving to the right, you get knocked to the left and you're dead. So I got super lucky there and happened to get caught on the wall. I have died there tons and tons of times. I've actually recorded this entire run like 8 or 9 times because that kept happening to me. If you're wondering why I'm hitting random blocks, I don't remember where every hidden item in this game is, so sometimes you can find hidden 1-ups in blocks, or you can get more hearts or points or whatever. And then this part, these eagles will keep dropping hunchbacks at you. Just stop and wait for them to drop and then swing your whip. If you miss, usually their jumping arc is going to go right over you. And sometimes you'll get a holy cross like that, which will clear the entire screen. And then the other bottle you saw there is an invincibility potion that makes you invincible for about 5 or 6 seconds. Then you have this bone dragon, which normally you'd have to deal with, but because of where he spawns in, you can just kind of get behind him. And when you defeat bone dragons, each one of their parts turns into a heart. It's a really fun way to get extra ammo. And do not get the knife. Now this level is ridiculously hard. Like, maybe I'm out of practice, or maybe I'm just not good at the game, but I've always had difficulty with this level in particular. Mostly the first half. The second half isn't as bad unless you get really bad RNG with the flea men and the eagles. But if you're able to keep your holy water, although sometimes even if you can keep your holy water, it doesn't always work out because the timing is just, ugh. There goes all my health again. Oh well. Good thing I have plenty of health because here is the creature and hunchback. This can be the hardest boss in the game sometimes, but again, the holy water, if you time it right, you can just keep him from moving. If you don't have that, The creature moves left and right and then throws rocks at you, but the worst part is it has a hunchback with him, and that thing doesn't die, and it just keeps bouncing around the room. So if you don't stun lock him right away, that's like the most irritating thing to deal with. He's not the hardest boss in the game. We're coming up to the hardest boss in the game, actually. And I want to say this is the worst level in the game. I want to say it is, but I don't know. I think actually the final level might be a little more annoying. The problem with this level is that it's just really long, but it does have my favorite song in the game, which is Heart of Fire. So you're going to want to bait the skeletons as they throw their bones at you. Also something I neglected to mention. When you beat a level, the point value goes for time and all your hearts. So that means every stage you start with 4 hearts. So even if you beat the stage with like 32 hearts left, you still have to recollect hearts. It's not too bad, but it can be tedious sometimes. Especially with a level like this. You're gonna see me whipping at walls a lot because, like I said, I don't remember where all the hidden items are, but I do remember that there is a hidden 1-up in this level. One of like 2 hidden 1-ups in this entire game. My recommendation for this level is definitely keep the holy water. You have the blood skeletons, or just red skeletons. They do not die permanently. You knock them down and they come back up after a couple seconds. They're not too bad, because you can only take them out in one shot. This does have a couple hidden pork chops. I'm pretty sure that's what they're considered. They heal you for a lot. But we are coming up to the most annoying, well, I still say that the flea men are the most annoying, but the axe knights. They move forward and backwards, and then they throw their axes. But unlike your axe, where if you have the axe, you throw it in an arcing direction, they can throw it straight forward, like with the boomerang, which makes it really annoying to deal with. And they can throw it in 2 directions. They can throw it straight ahead, or they can throw it below you, which makes you have to jump over it, or duck under it, or you can hit it with a weapon, but it hurts a lot, as you can see there. The other problem with this game is the way this game changes difficulty is the further you get into the game, enemies start doing more damage than usual. So some enemies that were doing 2 units of health will now start doing 3 units of health, and some even doing 5. It's kind of ridiculous. If you want to, you can grind points off of the blood skeletons here, but it takes forever. Getting extra lives off of points takes a while, plus you only have so much time. So I wouldn't recommend it. Again, I'm checking walls for 1-ups, because I do remember some breakable walls in this game, but not all of them. But the biggest problem with this level is that there's just so many axe knights, and they take so many hits. Again, the holy water breaks this game, because you can stun them. It actually takes less time to hit them with the frickin' holy water than it does to use your whip. And I'm pretty sure that was intentional, because the whip, while it does have some range, it's not enough to really be super reliable. That's why the sub-weapons exist. It's kind of hard for me to talk about this level because it actually infuriates me sometimes. This level can either be super fun or the most annoying goddamn level you have ever played. Because yeah. It looks innocent enough, but I'm already close to dead, and there's only like 2 spots in this level where you can actually get health. And now we're at the halfway point. This is getting close to the infamous most difficult part of the game. But first you have to deal with bone dragons. Do not get the cross. The cross is well, the cross can help. You can hit enemies twice with it, but keep the holy water as long as you can. Abuse using the staircase. The stairs are actually useful in this game. They don't stay like that for very long. Ah, thank God, there's the healing item. This section. This is the most infamously difficult section of this entire game. You have this axe knight constantly throwing axes in 2 different directions, and then you have the Medusa heads coming at you from the front, and sometimes even behind you. This sucks. Normally I'd have much more health than this. There's only 2 knights, but if you don't time your shots right with the holy water, it's really annoying. Same with this boss. Here's Death. Death sucks. Death is the worst boss fight in this entire game. If you don't time what I just did here, this fight is complete RNG. You can cheese the hell out of him like I just did, and I would recommend that, because if you don't, basically what he does is he zooms at you like the bat in the first, like the bat boss, except unlike the bat boss, he also just constantly throws sickles at you that fly all over the room. You can destroy them, but then you're trying to dodge them and him, and it's just, ugh. Death is the worst boss fight in the game. Now for the final stage. Yes, we're already at the final level. Speaking of the first boss with the giant bat, you find him 3 times here. Do not deal with fighting him, because he has way too much health. Basically just, if they're below you, run and jump over them. If they're above you, whip them once to stun them, and then just keep moving. Just keep moving. Don't bother fighting them because they suck. It also wastes your time. So this is the now infamous clock tower stage that is going to be a staple of every Castlevania game, except for Castlevania 2, I think. I think Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest is the only Castlevania game to not have a clock tower stage. But now we can see here, now the skeleton bones do 5 units of health instead of 3, which is annoying. Speaking of annoying, we have more eagles and more hunchbacks. If you stand up here, they're going to keep spawning forever. The problem is getting around them when they drop them. There we go. What I was trying to do is bait them into jumping into the pit, because you can do that. It's just very difficult to do. And because the eagles keep spawning... Ah, there we go. It's really frustrating. And I'm going to Dracula with half health, which... Ugh. Which is not good. Oh boy. Coming up, you're going to see a weird edit. I took a break when I was recording this, so I had to edit out the pause, which took a while. What you can do is you can run back and forth and collect more hearts if you want to, which I recommend. Here's Dracula. He's going to teleport in, and when he opens his cape, he's going to shoot 3 fireballs. And the fireballs are going to arc, depending on where you're standing when he opens his cape is going to be where they shoot. The best recommendation I can give is watch where he teleports in, which is not easy to do, mind you, because it's very hard to see due to the NES flickering. Wait for him to open his cape and then jump, because he's going to shoot where you're standing, not where you were. Now, if you get too close to him, it's going to make dodging him a little more difficult. But you can only hit him in the head. And you can typically only hit him about 1 time per pass. So this is just... You have to memorize the pattern, get the jump timing down, and also time your whip when you're jumping. If you picked the boomerang instead, you can just jump and then use the boomerang. But there's a reason I kept the holy water, because after you defeat him, he turns into this thing. Once again, you can only hit him in the head, and the his new pattern is now he's just going to leap at you. So you have to run under him when he jumps, and then he's going to spit fireballs at you, which are very difficult to dodge. He moves very slowly, so if you stun him with the holy water, you can get a lot of free hits on him. And there we go, he's done. I made that look a lot easier because if you have triple holy water, you can keep him in place for a long time. But be careful because his fireballs do a lot of damage. Both forms of Dracula can kill you in basically 3 or 4 hits. It's a very hard final boss. But we did it. For those of you that have played Smash Brothers, that is what they based Dracula off of. That and Rondo of Blood. And now we have the credits where Konami USA decided to credit themselves all as characters from Bram Stoker's Dracula. I don't know why they decided to do this. It's weird. But that's Castlevania for the NES. A very difficult game, especially if you haven't grown up with it before. But it started a really fun franchise that I'm still a fan of to this day, which is a shame because Konami nowadays have not made a new Castlevania game in years. Like literal years, which is a shame. But we do have Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which is the closest to the newest Castlevania that we've gotten. And those are doing pretty well. But Castlevania 1. This game is really fun, although really, really difficult. And honestly, I remember this being easier than it actually was. This was actually tough for me to record. It was also tough for me to figure out how to do commentary for it, honestly. I mentioned before that I did this post-commentary because doing it live was just not working out for me. But that's Castlevania for the NES. I apologize for the long wait between videos. I've been busy and trying to decide what I want to do next for the channel. But I'm still around and I will be making more videos at some point. I thank you guys for watching this. I will do more Castlevania games in the future. Probably not Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest because I'm not good at that game and I don't really feel like trying to force my way through that. But who knows, I might do Castlevania 4 again, Castlevania 3, Bloodstained. I know that's not technically Castlevania, but it's close enough. Who knows? But this has been Sire Goku. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. See you guys then.